EA4FL now talking through the DMR-HT instead of DV stick. Hopefully, receiving me better this way. Over. Well, I copied just part of your transmission. I didn't receive it completely either in DMR or in D-Star over a 4FL UH2 BBQ. Okay, we'll see how it works today. My house in Hawthorne doesn't have the fastest internet, so unfortunately we're in a quiet end of the house that doesn't have the best Wi-Fi either. All right, it's top of the hour here. This Metal Amateur Radio Council digital voice net that meets weekly, 1500 UTC on Saturdays, Saturdays local time, in the East Coast of the United States, 11 in the morning East Coast. So far, 3 check-ins, AA4FL, KD4IZ, BY2BBQ. Thank you for being with us this holiday weekend. Are there any other check-ins? So go ahead and make your call this time.
Here is N4TSC, not for terribly smart children. Stick around after the net, Jay. I got a quick question. Back to you.
Philadelphia, Steve. Go ahead and make your call now first. Okay, nothing being heard. I anticipated this would be a quiet net, being that we have a holiday weekend here, and a lot of people are traveling or being with families that's on the holiday, weekend. I know I heard from a few that said that was the case. Are there any additional general check-ins for the Medical Image Radio Council net? And guests are welcome. You don't have to use a number of the Medical Image Radio Council. Go ahead and your call now.
WW9F. Whiskey Delta Niner, Golf Echo Tango. Be short time.
Okay, WW9F, Jeff, and Keith, WD9GET. I recognize, Keith, that you're here for a short time, so let me go ahead and turn the mic over to you. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jay, and good morning to the net. I've got some errands I've got to run, so I've got to go ahead and cut out and head into town. But I'd like to say that thank you to the guys that helped me out. Last time I was on the net when I was having issues with D-Star, I did get things worked out. I'm on D-Star now. It was a very stupid, small problem, but it took getting with the QuadNet admins and programmers to figure out what it was. It was very subtle, but very simple to fix. So I appreciate all the help on that, and have a happy Easter to everyone here on the net. WD9GET.
Thank you. Have a very nice Easter and extended holiday weekend starting today. I know you said you had errands, but hopefully you can start your holiday celebration early, at least in terms of family and friends. And I'm glad that the administrators were able to offer some input and help. They've been very accommodating, and they're exemplary in addressing needs or answering questions. And of course, it takes a team to make the QuadNet run. So each one of them has talents, and they are more than happy to share with amateur radio operators. Yes, I've been running the digital modes. Okay, this is AA4FL Net Control for the Medical Amateur Radio Council net. So we had short-term check-in from WD9GET Keith, and he'll be leaving the net shortly. Are there any other check-ins of any type now? Go ahead and make your call. N5RT, yes. I do acknowledge you there, Chip, N5RTS. I've got with NetLogger. We've got NetLogger up and running, so that's there. I haven't looked at the messaging window to see Hilton's link, but I see he has it there. And if you need to or want to use it, it's available for you. Okay, again, AA4FL. Are there any other check-ins? Go ahead. K3FCT, Philadelphia. Okay, thank you, K3FCT in Philadelphia. Steve, thank you very much for sharing the information last week. It was very helpful. And for posting it also on the Google group. Thank you very much. Anyone else? Make your call. Again, it's the Medical Amateur Radio Council Digital Voice Net. We need to, and before we proceed further, just review a few housekeeping items here. If you have a transceiver that has a busy channel lockout feature, enabling the feature will prevent doubling with other stations, so that could be helpful. Avoid tailgating when using the QuadNet, Open Quad DB network. When keying up, please leave a 2 to 3 seconds between speaking to allow the link repeaters and hotspots to synchronize with the reflector and other repeaters in the network. And stations are asked to check in using voice. And net control here, AA4FL will acknowledge you. Are there any additional check-ins? Go ahead and make call. Okay, well, let me review the list of check-ins. You have AA4FL, net control, KD4IZ, M2BBQ, Hilton in Brazil, who is streaming this for us on YouTube with a link provided on NetLogger, N4TSC, down in Boca Raton, Florida, WW9F, WD9GET, who stopped by before departing to take care of some obligations, N5RF, K3FCT. That being said, I'm going to go ahead and let us have a little roundtable discussion. Anything that you'd like, holiday greetings, COVID information, technical information, starting with KD4IZ. Go ahead and make your contact.
Very good, Jay. AA4FL in the Marco group, KD4IZ. Well, I had my second COVID shot on Monday, and I was being administered the Moderna vaccine, and I have discovered that not only my wife, but I have a pretty significant cytokine post-vaccination reaction. So, shot was on Monday, felt fine that night, got the next morning and felt like I got kicked by a horse. Was sore, very tired, just felt beat up, mildly feverish all day. NSAIDs did the trick, and doing fine now. I mean, Wednesday woke up and was in good shape. So it was brief, but unpleasant. My kids also are having similar reactions, so I guess it just is the way we're programmed, as they say. And things are moving along here in Maryland. We've had an uptick like everybody else. And, I'm keeping an eye on it as much as possible. And I'm sorry, I can't quite reach that radio. There we go. we are keeping our eye on it here. It's been kind of crazy. Susie is, as I've mentioned, a pediatric infectious disease specialist, and she's been point person for the hospital on a lot of the ID response to this. And so, we watch, we wait. We're hoping the spring break crazy doesn't turn into a mess this next week. KD4IZ, over.
Thank you for the report. We had the spring break crazy down in South Florida. Sure, N4TSC in his general area is a little further south, and Fort Lauderdale and Miami. I'm sure you all read what Miami did. They actually curfewed people, which turned into be a little bit of a political snafu because it was a certain racial group that was there, and seemed like might have been, oh, just didn't have the right optics anyway. But hopefully it's not happening further up the East Coast. Next, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Hilton, PY2, BBQ. This is AA4FL, and the Medical Amateur Radio Council, Quadnet right now.
Okay, A4FL and the group of Marco Digital Voice. This is PY2 BDQ Hilton, General Surgeon from São Paulo, Brazil. Nice to talk to you. Okay, again, I'm transmitting through DMR from the local repeater, and I have my Blue DV turned on in D star, so I can see whenever the signal of the star falls, and you can't hear me. So that's why I did a small pause. This week we are still in a bad position with this what we call the third wave of COVID-19. We still have an average of 3,000 deaths every day, and the number of new cases seems to be decreasing. It's yesterday it was 68,000, and it have already reached 100,000 daily new cases. So we are probably going to the decrease point of this loop in the following days or week, at least we hope so. People has been assisted in the public and private net of hospitals here in São Paulo. Wait one. Okay, PY2 BBQ returning. And that we are close to a breakdown in the system, so we need to start decreasing as soon as possible. I work at Albert Einstein Hospital here in São Paulo, which is the biggest private hospital in Brazil, and we cannot do any elective surgery because of the risk of a medication lack, especially medication for keep patients intubated in the intensive care units. So only emergency operations, surgical operations are being performed. So that's the story here in Brazil. I hope I have better news for the next week. So I wish you all a happy Easter with your family. Back to next control, A4FL, PY2 BBQ.
This is AA4FL. Hilton's sorry to hear the solemn news. We've been reading about Brazil's challenges and problems, and it seems like you're having the situation that we had here a number of months ago. And brightness will be on the horizon, but the sooner it gets here, the better. We understand what your country is going through right now, and we don't. We pray for quick improvement. Next, N4 TSC. Go ahead, Jerry.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Good morning to everyone, and good afternoon to Hilton. I'm glad that the QuadNet is working this morning. I have to compliment the link that we were given last week on the overview of mutations. It is quite a good review for those of us who are medically sophisticated, but it also gives a good explanation for people who are not. If they can sit there and follow the explanation for the nearly 1 hour that video takes, even if you take it in breakups, it's quite good. And I recommended it to a number of other people. In fact, there's a local retiree who was a pathologist in the Southern California system out of San Diego, and he's been disseminating information to those who are interested via email, and I sent it to him for review, and he thought it was very well done and shared it with other people as well. And on another front, I should ask the question, because I've gotten confusing bits of information regarding the possibility of updating my TYT. Stand by one. It's a UHF single band MD380, and I'm told that I only have 4 megabytes of memory, and therefore I have to be selective in determining the database on a geographic basis for updates, because otherwise I'll overwhelm the radio. So I wanted to talk to you about that a little bit after the net, Jay. But that's about it this morning for me. Let me turn it back to you, Net Control, AA4FL and 4TS.
Okay, Jerry, thank you very much for the comments about the video, and appreciate that that's being used and disseminated with a touch from ARCA members. So anything that we can do to assist the medical public and the general public is always much appreciated. But in addition, it gives us a little bit of a boost in recognition, because, look at our check-ins. There's a holiday weekend, but their check-ins have ranged from 8 to 16. And the same ones of us have become good friends here on the QuadNet Array. But hopefully others will start joining in the amateur community. They don't have to be members. And the more individuals we have, the more interesting information we'll have to share. And I'll be here for you, Jerry, after that. WW9F.
Good morning to all on the net, or good afternoon, as the case may be. I was very sorry to hear the news about Brazil. Have been following that in the media, and wishing the folks in Brazil all the best. Here in Illinois, we're pretty much like much of the United States, in that we have the feeling that we're watching a horse race between an uptick or rising number of cases and hospitalizations on the one hand, and a rising number of vaccinations on the other. We are all rooting and cheering for the vaccinations. and are hopeful that that will win the race, but we will have to watch and see. On a personal note, I am preparing to transition to soccer season here. Wait one. Or as it would be referred to in Brazil and the rest of the world as football. And I'm on the sidelines. I'm not a player at this point, but that will interfere with my activities on Saturday mornings, but I don't have the full schedule of events yet. That's about it from Chicagoland, warming up here, and we're thankful for that. Back to net, WW9F.
Okay, Jeff. Yeah, we'll understand that. I don't remember the name of the Major League Soccer name of Chicago. It's not the Fire, is it?
It is indeed the Chicago Fire.
I guess we can thank Mrs. O'Leary for that. We have it here in Florida. It's very active and very popular. And, a number of my students go to the games and, they'll send selfies, to different matches. I'm trying to remember how many different clubs there are here. Two or three. I don't know if Orlando, Tampa, and Miami all still do, but growing up in the 1970s, I used to go to see the Miami Heroes and the Fort Lauderdale Strikers back in those days. Okay, enough about me. WD9GT was short term. It was next on this. Already give his presentation. Welcome to it again. But N5RTF, Chip, go ahead.
AA4FL and 5RTF. Hello to you and the group. This is Easter weekend in a very Catholic city. So we had the day off yesterday. Lots of people have seafood boils and cookouts and things like that with their families. We just sort of sat around and relaxed. And then went out briefly in the afternoon around the corner to our local pub with the dog, and had a good day there. We are doing actually very, very well as far as COVID rates and also with numbers of vaccinations. But on the other hand, we are again starting to be a tourist destination. I noticed a lot of visitors from outside the city coming in and partying and filling up the French Quarter the last weekend. And it's just going to get more and more as the weather gets nicer. So that's going to work against us as far as trying to keep the rates completely down. Wait one. I'm talking on the Anytone 878 through my Pi-Star hotspot. Finally got everything working well. I guess I'll go back and try to work on the Yaesu Fusion system again next week. I'd like to be able to access this through all of the different modes. I even have a D-Star radio here that I could use, but I think 100 watts to a Pi-Star is probably just a little bit extreme. I have to turn that down before I use it. So, back to the net in 5RTF clear.
Well, Jim, good morning. It's good hearing your voice. Thank you for checking and have a wonderful weekend. And enjoy all the good food. It's never a shortage. And I always enjoy eating and Don and Ollie's, especially with you and Terry. K3FCT. Good. Well, thanks, Jay, and Lynette. This is Steve, K3FCT in Philadelphia. First to Chip. With you guys, I have a Yaesu FT991A that I dial down to 5 watts, and I have used that with a dedicated hotspot for Yaesu System Fusion for other nets, not yet for this net. I'm on my Anytone 878 to a hotspot at the moment, but I also have my DV Megacast set up on D-Star. So there you go. As far as the COVID situation here in Philadelphia, my wife and I are both vaccinated, and about 4 weeks past the second dose, so we're covered. No real reaction after the first dose. After the second dose, I had incredible riders at 12 hours, but recovered quickly in about 3-4 hours, and spent the rest of that next day in low-key activity, and after that was fine. Philadelphia Wax, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, wave 1. Wax, the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and getting a vaccine out to all adults, which is somewhat annoying, as we'd like our 33-year-old son and his 34-year-old fiance to be able to be vaccinated. The local hospitals and ICUs have capacity, but also have a steady flow of patients. It is so discouraging how some of our neighbors and casual contacts fail to recognize how important and serious the problem in Brazil is for the whole world, let alone the situation in Africa, which they hear even less about. So that's enough bloviating from me. Appreciate the net. I appreciate that folks viewed and enjoyed the video I shared around last week. I think it's really an excellent tool, both for medical professionals and for lay public folks who will take the time to learn. A4FL, back to you on the net. This is K3FCT.
K3FZT, AA4FL, net control for Marco Digital Voice Net, the Medical Image Radio Council. Thank you, Stephen. That is the first roundtable of our net participants. Now, if others of you are listening and you're not a Marco member, we encourage you to participate. We encourage you to ask questions. You do have individuals here that may have answers that you won't have access to from the general population. And we're certainly not here to give medical advice, but we're here to share knowledge. So is there anyone else that is monitoring that would look to check in and make comments? If so, go ahead and make your call at this time.
Okay, understandably, it seems we have a very quiet holiday weekend. And I was very surprised. I had three students that wanted to meet with me today at the university. I thought everyone would be out of town, but I got to head over there in about an hour and a half and spend the afternoon. I was there last night with a local member of the community. And I don't get into games all that much. And I'm starting to cycle in 10 days on and 10 days off now that it is over. But for the last year, I closed down W4GQ at the university. And now we go through screening with visitors and wear masks. And it's a small room, not very big, maybe 12 by 10. Wait, what? So we have to be careful with spacing there. We do have a DMR repeater at the university. It's on top of the hospital, an old cable run and an old antenna. Not the best signal. I have not had the QuadNet added to the machine yet, but I'm going to add and contact the appropriate person to make that happen so it can be used locally for QuadNet. We do have faculty members that would like to use it for VFAT. Wait, what? So similar to others of you, including Hilton and Steve, and I know at least one other. I'm also on a DMR HD. I'm using the Titera MD380, an older one, which Jerry also has, and we're going to talk about that after the net. But I'm also using BlueDV on a USB stick, and so I can see the lookup and make sure that I'm transmitting and being received well in addition. So those of you that are aware, we do have NetLogger up and running. You can open it up and see the 8 check-ins. Wait, one. And also on NetLogger, if you use the chat feature, you'll see that Hilton is monitoring the questions and comments that come in. And he's also live on YouTube. And it has it recorded and available for review later, which is very much appreciated. Are there any other comments from those of you that have checked in? Go ahead and make your call to me. I'll acknowledge you. So we'll see how many of you desire to make additional comments. And then we'll go ahead and rotate through the list. If so, go ahead and make your call now.
Yeah, WA3 QWA for check-in. How copy?
J3FCT.
WA3 QWA for check-in. Do you copy, Jeff?
Okay, QSL. I do copy and mark WA3QWA. Thank you for joining us today. We'll give you a chance to say hello to the group here in just a second. I want to go ahead and acknowledge J3FCT. Go ahead. I was just on offer to repost the link to that video if anyone here hadn't yet picked it up. But I also didn't want to clutter the YouTube stream that Hilton maintains, K3FCT. I think it would be very appropriate to share the link again. It's not going to clutter the screen. It's a very quiet day today. It'll be very much appreciated. I'm not sure that Mark has seen that link already. But please do go ahead and share that, Steve. Thank you. Mark, WA3QWA. Proceed. Yeah, very fine, Jay. Good to hear you. Good to hear the Marco members here. Been very busy, Jay. I haven't had a chance to get back to you on our project. So I'm still waiting to hear from the doctors in India. Things over there not good. They've had an uptick in COVID. So I think the doctors there are pretty busy. So I'll let you know what's going on. No projects that I know of for the Metashare. I do have some equipment, which I'm going to try and make some arrangements. We're contemplating going digital. Right now I'm not digital and I'm sending out. And it's just not worth it anymore. The station in Philadelphia, wondering if you're in private practice or retired or connected with the medical field. Very curious. That's where I'm from originally. Over. Hi, Mark. It's Steve here, K3OCT. I retired and moved back to Philadelphia, which is hometown. I'm a couple undergrad, couple med school graduate. Practiced 20 years in emergency medicine at Medical College of Pennsylvania, and now part of the Drexel University College of Medicine. Lived and practiced in exile in Brooklyn for 23 years and returned to Philly. I pay attention to what's going on. I'm still licensed, fully licensed in Pennsylvania, and board certified, but I'm not currently practicing and don't expect to resume. K3FCT. Okay, very well. K3FCT, WA3QWA. I'm also a Temple grad, but probably after you. In the late 90s, I was an engineer before I was a doctor. Did that for 7.5 years. I went to WashU undergrad in St. Louis. Came back to Philly to go to school. So it was interesting coming back to Philly. When I left at 18, I had traveled quite extensively. I came back to Philadelphia in the late 80s, early 90s. Then I went and did my residency out in Phoenix, Arizona. I haven't been back to Philly since. Been in southeastern Virginia here for 26 years. And every day is a fight and a struggle. We have a local company down here. I'm not going to say too much about it. That tends to dominate the market. It's not good. And the outside forces are starting to close in on them. Hopefully we'll get some federal judge to make a decision here. So we'd like to see the market more competitive. We're going through what Philadelphia went through back in the 80s. That's how far behind we are here. So very fine, Stevie. I'm originally from Lansdale. My father was a clinical professor of OBGYN at Jefferson. And I didn't want to go there. That school's a pressure cooker. Temple was much nicer. WA3QWA. Mark, great stories. Thanks so much for sharing here. And as far as Jeff goes, I think what I most appreciate is that man I helped train who went to medical school at Jeff is the chair of emergency medicine at Temple and loves the place. So, some confirmation for your observations. K3FCT. Oh, very fine. Yeah, my second cousin is chief of trauma at Jefferson. But he's a Temple grad. He tried to get into Jeff. My dad tried to get him in. And his brother. His brother went to Penn. I think he went to Johns Hopkins, then went to Temple Med. He was all, we'll say, mildly pissy about it, but he did get a good trauma surgery fellowship and ended up as chief of trauma at Jefferson. The medical community has, if anything, become more incestuous as the Penn community, medical community, integrated back into many local organizations in the 90s and 2000s. Now they're back to holding themselves apart. Anyway, we shouldn't, I should stop this gossiping through the net. It's a net control directed net, and I'm breaking all the rules. So, there you go. All right, Stephen. Good to meet you. We'll stand by. Jeff, just a little Philly talk there. So, back to you, Jeff. Okay, AA4FL net control. Now, Stephen, you were pausing to see if I was going to come, so I appreciate that. The conversation was fine and actually very interesting. However, Mark, would you please explain to everyone the IARP and maybe Stephen and you can connect there as well as others. So if you would provide that information again for your DMR talker, go ahead. Okay, Jay, very fine. Yes, Stephen and the rest of the group here, I have a talk group on Brandmeister. It's the International Amateur Radio Physicians Network. I've been getting a little bit of activity. I only monitor it at night and on the weekends. Obviously busy during the day. It's 312130 is the talk group, 312130. Got a couple of international doctors connected. I've got a group of Indian doctors. I'm trying to get over there. They like WhatsApp. I chat with them on WhatsApp, but I'm trying to get them over on the DMR. There's not a lot of DMR activity in India, mostly centered around New Delhi and Kerala. But the rest of the country, interestingly enough, has not gotten on the bandwagon. A little bit of activity in Bangalore, but mostly private. So there is a repeater, I think, in New Delhi. I'm in contact with a ham up there, and I do check into their net. I did miss it this morning. But we do disaster relief. I've got a doctor in Forex land who's an emergency room doctor, by the way, Stephen. He's works for the Israeli government. I don't know exactly what he does. I can't ask him too much, but he's up in the Golan Heights, and he's quite a COVID expert. I've relied on him for a lot of information, mostly relating to my own family. We're all vaccinated here. Got my son vaccinated. He's home in graduate school. But IRPN was started about 10 years ago. I have an Echolink site. By the way, if any of you are on Echolink has finally produced an update. We were absolutely shocked. A lot of us diehard Echolinkers couldn't believe it. They finally moved Bosnia out of. Okay, I think I timed out there. Yeah, they finally moved Bosnia out of Oceania and into Europe. Back to you, Jay. Okay. Well, I hope Echolink did more of an update than just that. Correct that one issue. I know it hadn't been changed in many, many years. I'll have to look at it. We had one at the university and we just took it down. It wasn't very well, so I don't know what enhancements they had made. But thank you for mentioning that. PI2 BBQ Hilton, would you would you like to take the mic for a moment?
Okay, Jim, thanks for calling A4FL and the group. This is PY2BBQ, returning from Sao Paulo, Brazil. I have a few more information, especially for the comments that Mark said, Whiskey Alpha 3, Quebec Whiskey Alpha. Answering your question, yes, I'm active. I'm 58 years old, a general surgeon here in São Paulo. I am retired from the military. I'm a former coroner doctor, and there until the end of last year, I worked a lot with COVID-19. Now, just general surgeon, not so much. As a matter of fact, I'm working just in emergency cases because elective cases are forbidden for a while here. Wait one. PY2 BBQ returning, and I'm transmitting with a link with DJ MD5 to the local repeater, and monitoring in DMR, of course, and monitoring with my Blue TV, which is being transmitted to the YouTube streaming right now. In the YouTube, we had a few comments. Stephen told about the video that explains coronavirus variants, mutations, PCR tests, etc. And I published the link for that video. Also published the talk group of IARPN, the group 312130, Grandmaster Networking DMR. And to a complement of the information I gave before, I didn't tell you about the vaccination, how it's going on here in Brazil. We have already given at least one dose for 19 million people. It's about 9% of the population. The rate is still very low, about 500,000 vaccines every day. We need to reach at least 1 million vaccines given daily, and probably to the end of this month we will reach that goal. Wait one. And finally, I would like to ask you or to hear any comments of you from something that I cannot explain. I'm seeing a decrease in the number of new cases in the United States that could be explained by the high rate of vaccination that we were getting there. But I also see the same decrease of numbers in Mexico. If you get the graphics of the slope of United States and Mexico, you can put one over the other, and it's happening exactly the same. And I have friends there. I don't see they lock it down, and even most of them are not even using masks, and the new cases are decreasing. And it's, of course, it's not related to vaccination, but they are not even close of what is happening in the United States in this regard, and of course, neither close to the number of vaccines given in Brazil. So do you have any explanation for the decrease of cases in Mexico? Back to the net control. A4FL, PY2BBQ.
Net control AA4FL. I'm going to let, in just a moment here, Stephen address your question. But in the general media here in the United States, they're reported that Mexico, and they're reporting their cases. And from memory, I thought I remember reading 60% underreporting. K3FZ. Do you have anything to add to that? Go ahead.
I do not, Jay and Hilton. It's an interesting observation. Uh, Closer to home, there have been discussions in the U.S. that Florida's rate of new cases and deaths was not much different than New York's. This was a couple of months ago. And, of course, the New York folks alleged, as did some of the media, that this was underreporting in Florida. I have no firsthand knowledge of that. There was a Florida Health Department person, a woman who was a data person in Florida, who was fired from her job and who at the time made allegations that it was a consequence of her reporting the facts rather than altering numbers. Again, I have no factual basis on which to confirm or deny those allegations in the U.S., let alone Mexico versus the U.S. Back to you, Jay, A4FL. This is K3FCT.
A4FL. Well, someone that lives half the time in North Florida in a more small town rural setting, and someone who lives in the South Florida, the third largest county in South Florida. There's a big dichotomy in Florida. Certain parts of the state are very cavalier, and those are fairly low. But the big cities, particularly the ones that have travelers coming in and out, the local authorities seem to be on top of it. I don't know how to answer the question about manipulation by the state. That actually hasn't been very clear as to whether or not the person that did the commenting was doing something that was sincerely accurate or inaccurate. It doesn't establish that it's a political issue here. Is there anyone else that would like to make a presentation about subject matter? Go ahead and address debt control first, and then I'll acknowledge you. N5RTF. Okay, only M5RTF heard. Go ahead, Chuck. Not so much a presentation, just a question. Um, some people have speculated that that sunlight makes a big difference in COVID rates. It is, it is becoming summertime here. Likewise in Florida, likewise in Texas, in Mexico. We're heading from spring into summer. Whereas in Brazil, it would be, even though it's close to the equator, it would be the opposite. The days would be getting shorter there. So you have light, you have people outdoors more, and you have vitamin D. So all of those factors have been raised, as possibilities affecting COVID rates in the warmer part of the United States. In 5RTF, clear. AA4FL net control. Interesting you should mention that, Sid, because my cousin and I were talking about that yesterday. The vitamin D in the papers that I've seen on vitamin D explain why it's a factor in reducing COVID rates. And if you look at the socioeconomic distribution, it's been assumed that it's because individuals work directly with the public. But in addition, I think if you look, there's some speculation that if you looked at vitamin D blood levels and those that have mortality, there seems to be some sort of a correlation. And I don't mean having low levels of vitamin D, but I'm talking about dire inadequacy of vitamin D in the diet. So there seems to be something to be looked at. And you should read about that. I get a number of Medline publications, NIH publications about that. W1HF. W1HMM. Harry, are you with us? Go ahead, make it. Saying anything. Okay, Harry, I have you checked in. Would you like to make a presentation? Do you have any comments? W1HMM. You have the mic.
No presentation for me. I've just been listening to what's been said, and I find it very interesting. And some of it's been thought-provoking, and I'm going to have to do some research on my own and see how how everything fits together. But that's my only comment for the moment.
Yeah, well, thank you for joining in, Harry. You know, the comment about vitamin D, I went and looked at my blood work, and of course my profiles in recent years, hadn't looked at vitamin D. I looked back 5 years ago to see my levels, and I, certainly was in the acceptable range, but if they're talking about trying to get up to a level of 60, which is the highest level acceptable. I feel that there's some sort of a factor there, but it's people that have a dire inadequacy of it in their diet, it seems. And of course, you've got the northern climates more prone to that than the southern climates where we do have the sunlight. So I know in the past the version of the sunlight is a factor. But vitamin T, it has something to do with cytokine production or inhibition of cytokines, from what I read in the papers. There's a number of papers, and they're supported with additional papers. AA4FL Friday. Are there any other comments from the group? I'm sorry, I had to let it drop. Any other comments about vitamin D? Please make your call to me, and I'll acknowledge you and let you make a presentation. Go ahead.
BYQ, a brief comment.
Right to BBQ. Go ahead, Hilton.
Okay. A4FL, BY2, BBQ, returning. I just would like to make a brief comment on what you said about vitamin D and other correlations that have been done with the waves of COVID-19. You see, here in Brazil, we had a great summer, very warm and sunny summer, and a lot of cases of COVID-19 that peaked exactly in the summer. Last winter, we also had the first wave of COVID-19, so we didn't see any correlations of the sun and the exposition and the COVID numbers. Every time we have a correlation between two events, it doesn't mean necessarily that we have a cause-effect relation among them. I mean, probably it's not vitamin D itself. People that are older and are of vitamin D. So probably the vitamin D is just a marker of those of higher risk for COVID-19 complications. That was coming back to you, JA4FL, PY2BBQ.
And for TSC with some comments.
Jerry, and for TSC, proceed.
Okay, and for TSC, thank you, Jay. Let me go in reverse order of some of the random comments that I have. When you're talking about vitamin D and whether there's a correlation, we can statistically go back and look at those people who are being treated for osteopenia and osteoporosis. Obviously, they're getting an excess of vitamin D, and let's see if the numbers are different in that group. And that's one way that we can take a look at it and perhaps get a better feeling for what its value is. Hold on one. The other comment that was provoked when Hilton made some remarks, teleologically, it may be the fact that perhaps 90% of the mutations that take place with the virus are itself are more fatal to the virus than they are to the humans that get it. So on a random basis, if you have a random change of mutations, many of them are just going to fall by the wayside, and it's going to be difficult for them to take hold. So that would be part of the teleologic explanation of what's going on. Hold on, Will. Okay, and then talking about the randomness of some of these thoughts, when you guys, like Steve, were talking about Philadelphia being the center of these changes, and Philadelphia being known as the city of brotherly love, the comment that medical schools like Jefferson and maybe Temple had become incestuous reminds me of the popular definition of incest. It's been reported that the Israelis have come up with an inhalation therapy, 5 days of inhalation therapy, I believe it is, to short-circuit the progression of hospitalized patients going from general hospital environment to ICU, and they've been quite successful, and I think they have a series of about 3,000 cases, and that's been reported. So we're able to attack COVID on several levels right now. So those are just some of the random comments and thoughts that I've had based on the conversation today. Back to you, Jay, AA4SL and 4TSC.
Okay, and for TSC in the group, AA4FL, when reviewing the papers about vitamin D, there was no conclusions other than there might be a reduction, no clarification of what it was in the first study that was needed. I appreciate the greater macro picture there of looking at the situation. And we'll be, for years to come, learning more and more about the virus. Do appreciate the mutation explanation as well. I'm going to go ahead and bring the net to a close here. I've got to head over to the university here fairly soon. And we're past the hour. But are there any other comments now that one would like to make this week? Go ahead and make a call to me, and I'll acknowledge AA4FL. Okay, no additional comments here. And preparing for the June issue of the Ether, I'll probably move to a different subject. Not that that COVID will be in the rearview mirror by then, but what's going on in Hilton and perhaps we should follow up on that and a few of the subjects that have arisen. But I'd like to start expanding the issues a little bit, not as an insult to those that are still suffering from COVID, those communities and countries that are. One, I do appreciate everyone sharing their holiday weekend time with us. Everyone have a wonderful, happy Easter, full of joy and family time. And for those of you that are finishing Passover, Ramadan coming up, enjoy your holidays as well. And I will say 7-3 and bring that to a close, but I will for a few additional questions that members had. Thank you for joining us and look forward to next Saturday. Alpha Alpha 4 Foxtrot Lima bringing the Medical Marriage Radio Council TV net to a close.